Welcome to another episode of PGS All-Stars. I'm your host, PGS All-Stars is a show that features you, members of the Post-Geek Singularity. On today's show, we have two very special guests, both well-known PGS members, authors, musicians, filmmakers, and creators for the Fantasmagorium show. So, we're going to be talking to both of these members about what they love about movies and so much more. Welcome to the program, Steve Foley, creator, producer, and co-host of the Fantasmagorium show.
Thank you.
And Scotty, R37, co-creator and host of the Fantasmagorium show, Martinis, Gadgets, and Guns, and Set to Stun.
Hey.
Well, gentlemen, thank you for coming on to PGS All-Stars. And I want to start off today's program by learning a little more about both of you. So I created this program so that other PGS members could find out about creators. And let's talk a little bit about your backgrounds. Can you both tell us how you became members and contributors to the Post-Geek Singularity?
I'll go first.
Okay.
So my introduction to Robert Meyer Burnett was on the very first episode of Heroes with John Schnepp that he hosted, co-hosted on. It was basically was a guest on at first. I remember immediately after that show writing a letter to John Schnepp saying, I don't know who Robert Meyer Burnett is, but you have to have this guy on every show. And so I've been following him ever since. So when he actually made the move onto the Burnett work and started his own channel, it was a natural progression just to follow him right over. And I've been, watching and contributing, when I can with super chats and tips ever since. I did have, starting about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, I had a chance to start working with the Richard a lot behind the scenes on a lot of stuff. So yeah, that's kind of where I started, right? Basically from the beginning with Rob. So it's been fun. It's been a long time too.
All right. And Scotty R37.
Well, yeah, no, I've been a fan of Rob since Free Enterprise came out. That was like one of my favorite movies of the late 90s. I was a big Swingers fan, and it made my nerddom cool. Like I think I wore out the disc and I showed like all of my friends, did the audio commentary, got people to call, redheads, hot, spicy Irish numbers. It was awesome. And so then flash forward to last summer when YouTube was my primary source of entertainment. And I sort of stumbled across Robservations and the Burnett work and started interacting with the community, and also met the Richard and like Tom Jr. Jackson. And through that went to a very raucous New Year's Eve party from what I recall.
Yeah.
And just over Zoom that. And then met Steve through that. So it's been a really great welcoming community for me to be a part of, and just sort of nerd out with a bunch of cool folks.
Wonderful. Now, do either of you have a background in theater and or entertainment?
Scotty, do you want to go
Come
first?
on. No, you have much better qualifications than I do.
I don't know. No, so no theater. I took in high school. I did take one theater class, but it didn't take for me. But I started DJing when I was 12 years old. So I started with hip hop and rap music, and did that for about 10 years, and then switched to house, and played raves up and down the west coast of the United States for about 10 years, doing that during the 90s.
Right. That's great.
So I mean, I guess tangentially in the entertainment sphere,
in one way or another.
Right.
And how about you, Scotty R37?
You don't have to use the designation. You can just call me Scotty. I just like that. I don't know why.
All right, Scotty.
Yay. So yeah, no, I've just been a perpetual host throughout, like in high school theater classes. I think I I was in a couple of plays in high school, and I just enjoyed performing in front of people. Had a career in hospitality where basically every table is a capture or a captive audience. And yeah, I guess the biggest thing that I've ever done was I was a nightclub Oscar party host for 13 or 14 years running in a small town in Ontario. And they kept asking me back, and it was always a blast. But I've just enjoyed sort of, oh, pardon me, sharing my fandom with people and standing up, and public speaking has never been a problem.
Mm-hmm. And so you're both creators, obviously in this media now. What made you to go down this route, and what are some of your influences that got you to this point?
So I've wanted to do some kind of show for a couple of years now. Obviously, my influences came, the shows that I watched the most were AMC Movie Talk, which became Collider Movie Talk, and all of the shows that spawned out of the AMC online stuff with John Campea, Christian Harloff, and Mark Ellis.
Mm-hmm.
And then, just the pantheons as that grew. And with Robert Meyer Burnett, John Schnepp. So that about 2 years ago, I wanted to do a show with somebody that we know from not only the PGS, but John Campia's show, Ben Rayner. I was trying to get him to do a show with me, and it just wasn't, I guess, the right time, and it just didn't seem to work out. So kind of fast forward to, I don't know what, about 3 or 4 months ago,
Mm-hmm.
Scotty and I had been having these great, and not just us, there's a group of PGSers that were having these great Zoom calls, right? It started with, with the Richard, and it kind of grew out of that, because he was doing a lot of these watch parties and kind of bringing people together from the PGS Facebook page. And so we get together, and so we were having these great conversations. And one day, I think it was Scotty might have said, we should take these conversations live. And it actually came up during, it was Black Phillip Alvarez, myself, and Scotty, and we were going to talk about Loki, the very first episode of Loki. And now, knowing that I already had these other plans in the back of my head, right, on what I wanted to present if I ever got the chance to. But Scott's like, well, let's just go live. And we're both like right now? Okay, let's do that. So Phil fired up the stream, and we went live for the first time as a team, the three of us. Up until then, Black Phillip Alvarez and I had been doing some streams, just kind of getting our feet wet, trying to figure things out.
Right.
But that really kind of jarred it loose for me. So I think it was the next day or the day after that, Scotty and I think I said, you know what? We have this Fantasmagorium Facebook page. I'm putting all this news and stuff that we love on there. Why don't we just take that and do a show out of it, right? Mm-hmm. I wanted to be quite honest, and this is going to be a little bit embarrassing for Scott, but I'm going to say it anyways. I wanted a vehicle where I could show off his talent. I saw it right away. Mm-hmm. And I saw it when he was doing these little live Facebook only unboxing of DVDs and movies. And I'm like, oh man, he's good. He's good on camera. And he's exactly what I was looking for, because I needed like a color commentary guy. I'm a setup guy. I'm a producer. And we'll talk about kind of how I think later on in the show about what I think my strengths are and how I realized that through the film festival. So I'm kind of a setup guy, right? But I needed somebody who was very good on camera that could play off of my setup, right? And has wonderful things to say about whatever topic we're talking about. And thank God I found that in Scott. So it was really a vehicle for me, because Phil and I had actually talked about in private, like, man, we got to find either a segment on our show together for Scotty, or somehow we got to get this guy involved, right? So it turned out that, I asked Scott, do you want to just kind of take what we're doing, what I'm doing here with the news articles and stuff that we love on the Facebook page, and just do a show? And he was like, yeah, absolutely. Let's do it now.
Yes, that is, first of all, thank you so much for the flattery. Heavens. Yeah. But no, and that is basically how it started in terms of how the show began. We were watching Loki and we were having a Zoom call, and I was like, let's just put it up, because Phil and Steve had done their thing, and I was like, let's just do it. And they're like, yeah. And I was like, yeah. So we did it. And then after that, Steve was like, do you actually just want to do a show? And I was like, sure, thinking nothing of it. And then the next day, Steve says, okay, we're starting at 4. And I was like, what? This is not, no.
I had artwork done. I had thumbnails. Yeah.
There were show notes. And I was like, I don't even know if I'm ready for this. And he was like, dude, you were ready last night when we were talking about Loki. And I was like, yeah, but I was, I had a few pops. It's fine.
And a couple of pops.
So anyway, we just started going at it. And I think that's been one of the strengths between Steve and I as a partnership, is just that we'll both come up with an idea, and he sort of lays the groundwork and lets me play and color within the lines. And if we go outside of the lines, we both know how to corral each other. I wouldn't say we finish each other's sentences, but we certainly know when to interrupt. So it's been really, really fun. And I've said on the show before, these are conversations that we were having with the Richard, with Black Phillip Alvarez, with Tom Jr. Jackson, like so many people, and so many other people, like Kat from Martinis, Gadgets, and Guns, and
Ben from Cinema Gulp.
And from Ben from Cinema Gulp, and just having these chats and having learned of each other just through the Robservations and the PGS chat forum, and going back and forth while Rob rants about Discovery, and we just sort of discover new movies, and it's like, oh, you gotta check this out. Do you like this? Do you not? And it's just it's a great community. But getting back to Steve, if he weren't setting up the gutters at the side of the lane, I would not know what to do or how to play. But it's definitely, we've helped each other with our strengths and organization, and hopefully we put on a good show for people.
Yeah, well, and I think we found a chemistry which is hard to you can't teach it. It's just it's either there or it isn't. And I think we were both very surprised at how naturally it kind of progressed and how easily it came to us. So the chemistry is there, and look, we make mistakes. We're brand new at this thing. We're still trying to fumble our way through it, but we're having a great time. We're having a lot of fun doing this thing.
Well, your chemistry is undeniable. And if this was a movie, it would be, a home run. But I wanted to ask you, Steve, you made a movie for the Intergalactic Imagination Connoisseurs Film Festival.
I did.
And you also submitted work for the short story competition. And I wanted to know, what was your mindset behind those projects?
So I wasn't planning on doing a film. I was kind of helping out in the background or offering my help to, judge or read or whatever anybody needed me to do. Right. But so I didn't really have any aspirations of doing a film. And I think I actually made up my mind the day that Rob opened it up for submissions. So I actually had only 60 days, which luckily got extended, or else I wouldn't have made the deadline. Because it took me 70 days to complete, which is super fast, especially for an animated film.
What's the name of your movie, dude?
The movie is called The Pale Man.
Okay.
And it was so much fun to do. I didn't realize how much fun it would be. But I didn't know where to start. I had no idea what to do. Right? How do you make a movie?
Right.
I don't know. So I just jumped in both feet, like I do just about everything. You just fake it till you make it, do it, until somebody says, hey man, that's wrong. So that's my mindset was, I think I can do this. I have all the time in the world, laid off due to COVID. So I'm sitting at the house with not a ton to do. And I'm like, you know what? I have this story that I want to adapt, and I think it'll really work.
Mm-hmm.
So the funnest part about this, and this is kind of why I was talking about earlier about producing. I found that producing and facilitating and gathering all the pieces, it's funny. That's exactly what I do in my professional life as a manager. So it just kind of naturally happened with this too. That was the funnest part for me, was putting all these pieces together. So I went out and I found somebody who could draw the characters for me, first of all. Secondly, I went and found a screenwriter that would help me write the script, because I needed to adapt this into something that resembled a script at least, right? And I found this amazing dude to help me with it from Greece, that helped me write this thing in a way that would translate to the screen. So I found that. Then I found an artist to do the storyboards, and then before I knew it, I had kind of the makings or the beginnings of this thing, this monster, right? So I'm like, okay, what do I do? So I have I have the script done. I have these characters, drawings. I have everything I need except for animation.
Right.
And I'm trying to find somebody who could animate this thing on a budget. I didn't have money. We don't have any money. This is a bunch of fans trying to submit stuff. So I did find a startup company in India that was just starting out, that said, yes, we'll do it for your budget. And I'm like, great. So it was called Vega Vision version. Mm-hmm. And they did the animation. Now, did the animation come out exactly as I wanted it to? No. It's not broadcast quality. It's not even, So what we did when we wrote out the adaptation for the script is we actually put all the direction in too. So anybody who has a script knows exactly what the scenes are supposed to look like. Now, I don't know if that's standard or not, because I'm new, but we did it that way just so I could hand it off to somebody to say, listen, this is what I need this thing to look like. Mm-hmm. They did a good job. They did a decent job with what they had, but man, I wish I had the money to redo it. Right. But it came out, even still, it came out great. The last finishing touch was finding somebody to do the voice narration, the voiceover. So that was a challenge, because I knew kind of when the setting is like in the 30s for the movie. Mm-hmm. And I wanted that kind of, and the tone, when we wrote it in that vernacular. Right. So I needed the tone to be right. And I was finding people, I was like, it was hard. So let's just say it was hard to find the right sound or the right voice that I wanted. And I had thought I had settled on somebody who was basically doing a Gandalf impression. But it was very, majestic, and that Gandalf voice. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, no, no. That wasn't. It just didn't. It didn't quite fit. There was something better, and I knew it. So I kept looking, and I found somebody who did a Morgan Freeman impression, but we tailored it down. We drew it out, made it a little slower. So it fit almost perfectly, at least what I had in my mind. Right. I think the best part of that movie, besides, if I do say so myself, the writing of the movie, the best part of my movie is that voice narration, because the dude nailed it. Anyways, so that was my journey with making the movie. Luckily, it got extended because I didn't have it on time for the 60 days. It took me 70 days to turn in the film. And I'm super proud of it. It's the very first thing I ever tried to do in this medium. And I think it came out really good.
So do I, man. I've seen it and I love it. I think it's really great, and it builds a mood and attention to it. And mm-hmm. I like the animation. So and the voiceover, cool. You're absolutely right. It was sort of a not Morgan Freeman, but where Morgan Freeman is from is how the narrator sounded. And so, it's really good. I'm proud of you for having it.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm proud of myself too, because like Robert Meyer Burnett and John Campea both, and a lot and others, but those two specifically always say, "Don't talk about it, do it." I've always been like that. I'm like, if I want to do something, I just do it. And so many people suffer from that paralysis by analysis, and especially in this business, you can't do that, and you can't strive for perfection either, because if you're always striving for perfection, you're never going to turn in any product, right? Because it's never going to be good enough.
Right.
So that's hard too, to decide. Okay, it's good enough. Let's go. Right. Now, when it comes to the short story, I knew ahead of time about that, and I'm like, yes. In fact, I was the very first person to submit.
Oh.
To pay the money and submit it. I had that short story done, I think, in like a week and a half. 10,000 words, easy, boom. I already had it's a story that's been floating around in my head since I was young. In fact, that spawned the writing of my novel. So I wrote a novel last year too, called Droplets for the Soul, that I'm trying to get published now. That's another story I had just banging around in the head since I was a teenager. But because of the movie, because of the short story, I was able to say, okay, it's time. Let's just see what I can do with it. And I knocked it out. And subsequently, I just finished my most current book. I just got it back today from the editor.
Wow.
It's called Let's All Go to the Lobby, a sweet history of concessions at the movies. And I am self-publishing, and that will be out hopefully by the end of next week. Paperback and ebook.
That is fantastic, Steve. I'm very excited to see your new book, which will be coming out soon. And I think you nailed it with your animated film, and it's very exciting. Yeah. Now, I know that you both were telling me about the Fantasmagorium show, and you mentioned that you are on Facebook with the show, and obviously you're on YouTube. I'd like to know some of the examples of your featured programming on the show.
Featured programming, Steve. She thinks we plan. No, and it's one of the things that I'm really proud of, just in terms of the format and the featured programming. Like, we do sort of introduce the show, all of the stingers and the opening intro musics. Steve got together, and that was a big step for us. When we had intro music, we knew we made it, and and we just basically go through the news and bounce the ideas off of each other, trying to I don't know, incorporate the business aspect of the fandom aspect of things that we're excited about. A couple of the early trailers that we looked at were things that were completely under the radar, like Titan and Pig. And Titan won Palme d'Or at Cannes, and Pig has been such a huge success with everyone who has seen it. It is still on my list. So good. But like just trying to spread that around, and that branched out into our first, I guess, spin-off show, which was Martini's Gadgets and Guns, where we wanted to talk. Catherine, my co-host, my opposite number, is such a wealth of knowledge when it comes to James
Bond savant, if you would.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
She's amazing.
And I knew that she'd been on Midnight Metal and the Midnighters, and she wanted to talk to Rob about James Bond. And then afterwards, we'd all convene in a chat, and she's like, I just wanted to keep talking about James Bond. So when we decided to do Martini's Gadgets and Guns, it was like, you want to hang out and talk about Bond? And we sort of put together a format for that, and that was really successful and fun. And we met some awesome people in our chat through that, and we thought, why don't we keep going with it? I love Star Trek. Let's talk about Star Trek. So there was my co-host Chandra on that show. I had met her because she had been a Klingon on Star Trek Discovery, and I was basically, hey, we should hang out. And so we just talked about Star Trek and her experiences being in the entertainment industry, and that's been really successful. And so, and then even as of Thursday, as recently as, I don't know when this is released, so today, as recently as Thursday, we had Turgay, who has been
Right.
featured in letters read by Robert Meyer Burnett on Robservations, and
Mhm.
he has the cult movie corner, and
Cult classic movie corner.
that's the
Mhm.
one. And he he has his show now, and he's bringing to the forefront movies that people haven't seen, and if they have seen them, then they're sort of distant memories and worth dusting off to take another look at. And so it's been really good. It's like a perfect storm of really awesome members of this community that have brought together and elevated everyone's talents and passions, and trying to share them with everyone else. It's really great. It's a
And
great little place.
that's the whole idea behind the Phantasmagorium. And it was born right out of the PGS and what we all thought the PGS should and it should be. As a place for people to get together, like-minded, and it doesn't matter where your fandom lies, but we all get together and share our talents with each other and help each other out. And so that's basically exactly what the Phantasmagorium is. It's just a place where anybody can come and share what they love.
And Steve and Scotty, you also have a wonderful website that features even more content, right?
Yes. So we do movie news, mostly movie and TV news. And we also have all of our shows are there as well. So they don't just live on YouTube. We park them there as well, just in case. So just in case we do something wrong and it all goes away, we have it somewhere. But yeah, I've been building websites for the better part of 20 years. So that this kind of stuff kind of comes naturally to me. But I wanted a place that not only we could do that, but then start showcasing some PGSers who want to write. If you want to write for the show, go to the website, hit the contact form, and let me know. Everybody's welcome, and we'd love to have you.
Well, that's great to know. Now, do either of you collect physical media or any other kind of collections that you enjoy?
Yeah, some might call it hoarding, and that's one of the ways that Steve sort of found me through live streaming just on Facebook. I've been collecting people's used physical media, like their DVD collections, and I would get boxes, and there's 150 of them, and I wouldn't know what I was doing. I'm just grabbing box after box, being like, I've heard of this. This is good. Don't want this, and going through that. And so I would say I'm probably hovering around, not to give specific numbers because some of it is not good, but like 550 DVDs and Blu-rays and stuff.
Wow.
And I really appreciate having that collection to go to. Is it available on streaming? Doesn't matter. I have it. So the essentials, the ones that I want. And I have a comic collection, and I've got a toy box full of Star Trek action figures. And so yeah, no, I'm basically an 8-year-old living in a 43-year-old's body.
I don't collect too much. I have on the order of maybe 200 DVDs. I don't buy much physical media anymore, just for the fact that I don't have any place to put it anymore. But I still hold. I have some comic books that are some of my favorites. I'm a book reader, so I collect books, especially ones that that I really like, or things that are considered classics. I try to get and hold on to. But other than that, I'm not a big action figure guy. Although I do get pops because they come in a Marvel subscription box, and I got it for the shirts, but the pops are growing on me.
Well, favorite movies and directors can change through your lifetime, but I want to know from both of you, what are some of your favorite directors and favorite movies right now?
Denis Villeneuve is one of my favorite directors working right now. Christopher Nolan is obviously one of my favorite working right now. Alex Garland. And I think I'll round it out with Wes Anderson.
Okay.
Nice.
And did you want to throw in any movies onto that too, Steve? Or
no, I think we'll leave it just with the directors. I don't like doing that.
Okay.
I do have a list of favorite movies, and if we do like a specific show, I'll get it together. But my lists constantly change.
Yes.
It just changes almost with my mood. So, it's just hard for me. But all of those, all of the four out of the four filmmakers, I love almost every one of their movies.
Wow. And how about you, Scotty?
Well, Denis Villeneuve, absolutely. Since Arrival, I've just been. I love his sci-fi. I like his vision. I like everything. Blade Runner 2049 was great. Tarantino, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I think is the nicest, most violent movie I've ever seen. I really love that. Joe Johnston, I know not recent, but like has been one of my favorite directors just because two of my favorite superhero movies, Captain America, The First Avenger and The Rocketeer. Yes, please. Thank you, Joe Johnston. And Edgar Wright. Anything that guy does, I will absolutely watch. I'm really looking forward to. Yeah. And so,
I'm
Edgar
excited
Wright
to
fan
see
too.
his Last Night in Soho. He's doing that one, right?
Yeah, that looks so good too. That looks awesome.
Excited for that.
So, but if you want to know my favorite director of all time is Stanley Cooper.
Yes, and just I know he's made practically all his films are fantastic, but if you could pick top four, what would they be?
For me, it's 2001. It's Full Metal Jacket because that led me into the Marine Corps.
And thank you for your service.
Welcome. Clockwork Orange and Barry Lyndon.
Scotty, is Kubrick also one of your favorites?
Well, I feel like it's cheating to say Kubrick is one of your favorites. It's everyone's favorite. Well, maybe not everyone.
Well, it's like saying Hitchcock. Right. I know. Some people don't like him.
Yeah, and that's true. Some people find him sterile, but yeah, no, he is definitely one of mine. For some reason, I have a really soft spot in my heart for Eyes Wide Shut. It is just something that I adore in its insanity. I really like that. Dr. Strangelove, I think, is fantastic, and I also have a soft spot for George C. Scott and Peter Sellers, like those sort of classic movies and that satire. And then obviously 2001, The Shining, Clockwork Orange, Full Metal Jacket. I have not seen. There are gaps in my Kubrick. I haven't seen Lolita, and I haven't seen. That's what I heard. And I also haven't seen Barry Lyndon, but I've heard that that's fantastic as well.
Really good.
And I just haven't been able to acquire it properly.
Well, my three favorites, and they do actually change, but for the most part, it's always been Full Metal Jacket, Lolita, and Eyes Wide Shut. It's always been those three. I feel like I can't live without those movies. So yeah. So Scotty, can you please tell us more about your love for Star Trek and your exciting new show, Set to Stun?
Yeah, that'd be great. So I've loved Star Trek since I was a kid. Watched it on Saturday afternoons. Even it would take precedence on Saturday afternoon outings. We would have to go to restaurants that had a TV on where the CBC was playing so that I could, not with sound, I just want to be able to watch the Star Trek. And that grew into watching totes, dude. And so watching Star Trek, the movies during the 80s with my dad. And then when Next Generation came out, that carried forward. I collected the toys. I've always been really, really passionate about it. And so when the opportunity came up to do Set to Stun, I figured this is what the internet needs. No one is talking about Star Trek on the internet. It's my time to shine. And so having met Chandra through a mutual adoration of Trek, or at least through that era of Star Trek of the late 80s, early 90s, and really being passionate about it, being able to talk with her about it, it was like, do you want to come and talk about new Star Trek, but also be able to talk about old Star Trek as well, and just the things that we like, the things that we don't like, but want to do that? And she was like, cool, sure. And I was like, really? And so it happened just as quickly, and it's been really fun. We started last Monday after the season premiere of season 2 of Lower Decks, and we talked about that and sort of the highs and lows, and we're looking forward to carrying that through the rest of the season.
Well, it sounds exciting, and I happened to catch that first episode, and I just absolutely loved it. So, congratulations on that.
Great.
Thank you.
And this question might seem a little repetitive, but what movies are you looking forward to, let's say, upcoming this year that have not been released yet?
Dune.
No Time to Die. No Time to Die.
Dune for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Eternals, even more after the new final trailer dropped today, which is awesome. And because of all of the initial reactions, Shang-Chi.
Yes. What about you, Scotty? Did you want to add anything to those?
I am really, Last Night in Soho,
Mm-hmm.
and really curious to see what happens with Ghostbusters Afterlife. Like sort of under the radar, but Jason Reitman is another one of those directors that I enjoy. I don't necessarily sing high praises of his entire filmography, but I definitely think that there are some highlights, and I'd like to see him, step into his father's shoes in terms of how that goes. I'm just really curious about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with everything you guys said and what we're looking forward to. And it seems like those release dates can't come soon enough sometimes,
Right.
Now, I was just curious, and I didn't really have this conversation with either of you ever, but I was just curious as to whether either of you play any musical instruments or anything like that.
Well, Steve's probably more the musician than I am with your DJ experience, Steve.
Yeah, so I started playing, the very first instrument I played was the accordion.
Okay.
I played the accordion when I was a really small child. I think I played that for 2 or 3 years. I remember I distinctly had 2 accordions, so I must have liked it to have 2, right? And
now,
then
Steve, were these the big kind or the smaller size ones?
No, it was a regular big.
The huge. Okay.
Yeah.
It explains the broad shoulders. Yeah.
Broad shoulders. Yeah. So I played that when I was a kid, and then when I got into school, like 5th or 6th grade, I switched over to the trumpet, played the trumpet for a little while, and then played stand-up bass.
Oh, wow.
Stand-up bass player in junior high school, which led into playing electric bass. Mm-hmm. And then, I think I was around 12 years old, and I sold my bass rig and bought turntables, and it was over.
Now, what kind of bass are we talking about? Do you mean the classical bass instrument or a bass guitar or like a bass drum?
So stand-up, big classical stand-up bass with a bow.
Okay.
A bow and picking.
Yes.
Played classical orchestra music mainly. Mm-hmm. And then I played the electric bass in the same venue with the orchestra. But then it was over. I was turntables, and I was see ya. No more instruments for me.
Well, I just want to ask, is there anything else you would like your fans and the other PGS members to know?
Well, I think that we're imagination connoisseurs, and we really love talking about this, and we want to sort of promote a space where there's positivity to be able to discuss. You don't even have to agree, but just generally have good conversations. Even picking plot holes is fun. You can nitpick for fun, but just really have a positive place where you can feel comfortable and safe to be able to have conversations with friends and still walk away after a handshake and say, yeah, no, good game. We can still be friends, even though you like this, I don't like this. I get in crap all the time for not liking Lord of the Rings, but at the end of it, everybody just says, no, it's fine. That's just Scott's hang up. It's whatever.
Is it that you don't, so I have to be very specific about this. Is it that you're not fond of the books, or you're not fond of the movie, or both?
I tried to read Fellowship, and for some reason my hang up at the time was when I ran into the word 11D. I was like, well, that's not even a word. and then when I went to go see the movie, I saw the first 2 in theaters, and I was just like, so we're walking. This is what this is about. We're walking, and we sort of trip from time to time. Basically, my opinion is Randall Graves from Clerks 2.
So Scotty's not a fantasy guy, admittedly. But since doing the show, he's coming around. He is coming around to fantasy. His mind is more open to at least checking it out.
Yes, absolutely.
Which is awesome.
And I used to say I'm not a fantasy guy, and then I was like, no, I've been exposed to a bunch of fantasy that looks interesting. And also, what is Star Wars but space wizards? Come on.
Right.
So I was taken by that, and it's really been eye-opening. But yeah, no, Lord of the Rings, just 3 movies about walking to an effing volcano.
Well, it is a journey, but I'd be curious, Scotty, to see your review of the story about the author of Lord of the Rings. They recently made a film, and I can't remember the name of the film. And it was about how he struggled to find where he belonged as a creator. And then, of course, once he realized, that he had this, what I like to call a magnum opus direction of creativity for writing new languages and his entire worlds that he created, he begins to flourish as a creator. So I found that the story about the author was maybe even more interesting than the story he created. So you should check it out.
I think that movie was just called Tolkien, right?
It might be that, yes. Yeah. It might be Tolkien, and I don't remember who plays in it, the actor, but he did a wonderful job. And you would like it, Scotty. This one you would like.
Well, and I think I would be more interested in the life of Tolkien than Tolkien's work, and see how, because the creativity on display there in the books, in the subsequent, like The Hobbit, everything that he's created in that world is like flabbergasting. I can't knock the creativity. It's just not my cup of tea. But yeah, I would be much more interested in hearing about the man himself than exploring his work. Just
Tolkien and C.S. Lewis used to have an epic friendship, and just reading about the conversations that they used to get into over pints of whatever beers was on tap,
cider, and
or ciders or whatever,
pale ales, whatever.
Yeah, right. It was a very interesting read. You can find those. It's awesome.
Well, gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. Of course, everybody, you can find Scotty and Steve on the Fantasmagorium show. And remember, everybody, take care and be kind. Bye for now.
Bye.